the seat of those B-2 bombers, and I'm pretty sure I found one. I can't, there's no way to confirm it because the military is not going to tell you. I think I have found Kansas City's Top Gun, and I'd be willing to bet my own personal money that this guy was leading the mission. And we're going to tell you who he is and what he's all about in just a couple of moments, so stay tuned for that. We'll get into the stadium issue a little bit as well today, in all likelihood. We will ask the question, why are the LA riots not happening anymore? Did the immigration riots end? Oh, the news stopped covering it. Uh-huh. Jerome Powell heads to Capitol Hill today to get grilled on why he has not lowered interest rates. I like that. At 10:30, Kelly Campbell Goodnow is going to be in studio with us here. She is the executive director and a Gold Star spouse of valorpartners.org, a wonderful organization that raises money for military families, and she has an incredible story. I'll repeat that again. She's the executive director of valorpartners.org right here in Kansas City, and she is a Gold Star spouse. She lost her husband, Sean, in 2016 with 11 other Marines in a multiple helicopter crash training, and she has turned an absolute tragedy for her and her children into something incredible that you can be a part of here in Kansas City, and we'll talk about that with Kelly Campbell Goodnow coming up around 10:30. And, of course, we'll finish with Mark Van Parlay today. Oh, I've got a salary cap riddle for him. A salary cap riddle, an NFL salary cap riddle involving Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to like that, so we will do that. We start today with Donald Trump in a really foul mood this morning. At 6 a.m. Kansas City time, he busted out the F-bomb live on television for everybody watching around the world live. He was so disgusted with both countries, they both don't know what the F they are doing. And I've never seen him that mad. And he was walking away, and he was getting on the plane. And he goes, I'm calling him now. And within 40 minutes, he had posted that the ceasefire was back on after he talked to Netanyahu. This sounds like it could have been a misunderstanding. It could have been a misfire by Iran. And then Israel's response, of course, was 50 times as strong as what Iran did to them, which was absolutely nothing. So we'll find out maybe going forward. I don't know why it matters, but this ceasefire clearly is incredibly important to Donald Trump. He wants the United States out of this now. We did one strike. It was completely and utterly successful, and that's it. It scared the bejeebas out of Iran. They were ready to not just come to the table. He wanted an unconditional surrender. Remember that? Well, it is an unconditional surrender if your terms of stopping shooting at each other is you have no nukes. And Iran has said that. We will stop our nuclear program. We'll do whatever you say. We'll stop the nuclear program. We want to stay in charge here. We want to keep our country. And if that's the condition of the ceasefire, it's on. So it is, in its own way, an unconditional surrender. Because there's nothing else they're not going to shoot any bombs. Nobody's going to shoot at each other. This thing needs to be on, and this needs to be over. Before Trump busted out the F word, and Pete played some of this, he just excoriated the media for what they did on primetime last night. Primetime television, they brought in all their big anchors. It's Monday night. It's the first time back since the bombing on Saturday. And the common theme, because they always have their talking points, the Democrats and the liberal media, their common theme was, well, we did a good job, but it doesn't look like it's that complete. I mean, look at this picture. We can't tell if it's really destroyed, if there's still capabilities down under there. We're not sure that it was as destructive as Donald Trump says because we don't believe anything Trump says. And Trump came out and said, they're out to get me, but do not disparage our pilots from Whiteman Air Force Base that were in those cockpits for 37 hours and risked their lives, not just, ladies and gentlemen, when they fly over Iran and drop the missiles. How about refueling? You think that's really safe? We got this big, long chute full of fuel flying through the air at 50,000 feet or whatever altitude they are when they're refueling. There is nothing safe about any of this. There's certainly nothing safe about being in an aircraft that runs nonstop for 37 hours. Ask yourself this. How would your car perform if you drove it on the freeway at, 80 miles an hour for 37 straight hours without stopping? And there was going to be a truck pull up next to you and there was going to be a truck pull up next to you and refuel you as you went. Yeah, this was dangerous, all right. It was plenty dangerous. We had Colonel Cluck on the broadcast yesterday. He's outstanding. If you've not heard that, you can go back to the podcast page at kcmotalkradio.com. He talked about the go pills and how the pilots stay awake that long and stay alert that long, that they each have their own special formula of, I don't know, methamphetamines. The official military stance is now they don't allow methamphetamines in the cockpit, that the go pills have changed. They're not the same. I looked all this stuff up after the show yesterday, but I'm pretty sure the pilots get what they need. I think I've discovered Kansas City's Top Gun. So here's how this story goes. I started Google searching. Well, I usually actually go to DuckDuckGo. B-2 pilots. And I came across this story from last year that Lieutenant Colonel Justin Meyer of Kansas City at Whiteman Air Force Base crossed the threshold of 2,000 hours in a B-2, becoming the first B-2 pilot ever to spend 2,000 hours in a cockpit. That, by definition, makes him the top gun. But I know more about Justin Meyer. I don't really know him. I've heard about him. I knew he was at Whiteman. I have heard about the ascension of his career because me and my wife worked with his sister at Sports Radio 810, who is a radio sales rep. She's an incredible lady. She's a tremendous professional. She loves her family, and she can't say much about her brother, but we've all known that he's a pilot at Whiteman. And I didn't know this until I just started looking at pilots, and he's the name that pops up. Lieutenant Colonel Justin Meyer is Kansas City's finest. He is the most accomplished B-2 pilot that they have in the entire history of the B-2 program. He has, well, that was a year ago, he crossed 2,000 hours. Go ahead and add another 37 hours, because it sounds to me like he was in a cockpit. I would ask this question. I cannot confirm that he was one of the pilots, but as we're trying to identify him and our military doesn't want people to know, it's not for security reasons. They don't want some pilots to look more famous than the other. Remember, there were decoy pilots that went to Guam. They don't want to diminish what they did. Everybody's on the same team. There is no Patrick Mahomes here. Everybody's the same. You're all pilots. You're all flying today, depending on which aircraft it is. If you're flying the refueling tanker, that's just as important as the B-2. They do not like to differentiate between these pilots. It's not like the movies. But, come on. You're making the call. Who's going over Iran and dropping these bombs? Who's leading the way? You got Lieutenant Colonel Justin Meyer from Kansas City, who is the record holder for most hours in the cockpit of a B-2. I'm pretty sure he was flying over Iran Saturday afternoon while we were all enjoying our day. I'm pretty sure he was there. So to his sister, I'm not going to give her name out. She's awesome. She wouldn't like any of this, by the way, that I'm even mentioning it. But again, it's easily searchable. It doesn't take much to be a sleuth. I only recognize the name because I know that I worked with her. Incredible stuff here. We are so proud of Lieutenant Colonel Meyer and all of the folks at Whiteman Air Force Base. I just think it is absolutely tremendous. Way to go. We asked the question why the LA riots have stopped. I searched LA riots because I haven't heard anything for a few days. I don't think you guys have either. The latest story anywhere on the search page was 3 days ago. Like, well, okay. Isn't it amazing? Once Iran and Israel became a thing and we got involved, how the riots stopped. You can say it was because people, wanted to stay home and watch on TV what's going on with Iran and Israel? I don't think so. There was no news coverage. There was no social media coverage. The people that go down there and cover this stuff are like, they got called off that beat. They're onto something bigger and better. And it begs the question, what happens? What stupid crap happens on the left in this country because the media pushes it? How much of all the things that the rest of the world sees here that is unrest or civil disobedience or, racism, how much of that stuff only happens because the media is there? Now, most of it happens in the summertime. We've talked about this. I don't think George Floyd in January is the same story as it is in May in Minneapolis. I just don't. I don't. And, all these things occur, and I'm like, okay, the riots are gone. Well, of course the riots are gone. Nobody's airing the footage. Nobody's looking at it online. It's not getting clicks. Not that it's not going to happen again. I'm not saying it's not coming back. They'll circle back and they'll try to make a big deal out of it. But I think that's a big factor in this. Once you realize you're not going to be famous by going down there and kicking smoke bombs back at the police before getting shot in the nuggets with a rubber bullet, then you stop going because your nuggets from the rubber bullet hurt. And unless you're going to get 7 million views, you don't really want to do that. These people are crazy. Stephen Miller's put us on red alert today. I'm a huge fan of Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller was on Fox News last night, and he said the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump can deport these people to a third country. They overrode lower courts. The lower court judge in Boston says, I don't give a damn what the Supreme Court says. I'm going to enforce this, meaning today, this judge in the Northeast that is basically a liberal activist with a robe to disregard the Supreme Court ruling and go ahead and enforce this in his jurisdiction. And Stephen Miller fired a warning shot preemptively on Fox News last night, says this judge has said he's going to ignore this tomorrow. And when he does, watch out for the fireworks and watch what we do to him. So I'll be waiting for that one. If it happens during this show, I'll let you know. There is a sworn judge in the United States of America that is going to disregard the Supreme Court and try to enforce something in his jurisdiction. I can't wait to see what the Trump administration has in mind for that guy. You thought it was bad when Alex Padilla went into Kristi Noem's news conference and got slammed to the ground. Keep it up, you crazy libs. Let's go. Keep breaking the law. Keep breaking into things where you don't have any access to or shouldn't be part of. Keep overstepping your bounds as a lower court judge when the Supreme Court has told you what the law of the land is right now. FAFO. That's what Stephen Miller's saying. I want this to happen today. Actually, it would be great if just once one of these liberals said, you know what, I respect the rule of law and the Supreme Court. I'm not going to do this. But I can't wait to see what happens if this guy does that. So we'll be on the lookout for that one. 913-408-7957 is our number. 913-408-7957 if you'd like to join the conversation. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Kelly Campbell Goodnow will be here. She's the executive director and Gold Star spouse, valorpartners.org. We were all thinking about the military right now, and this is going to be a really good interview. So we're looking forward to that. This is Uncanceled on KCMO. We are presented to you each and every day by our friends at bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. They don't just buy houses. They help people through tough situations. Look, Best Offer's mission is really simple. We're going to help people. We're going to get them cash. We're going to help them move on with their life when they don't have the time, the energy, the health, or the status at this point to do it. Whether it's a personal issue, a safety and security issue, or a health issue. Some people just got to move, and they don't have time to list their house, do all the repairs, fix it up, and do whatever. They understand that at Best Offer KC. The other thing about Best Offer KC is they're the gold standard of this industry. They make you an offer, it stands. They've never backed off of an offer. They've never backed out of an offer. Other companies do. There's fine print. They have 30 days to change their mind. Best Offer KC never once has backed away from an offer, and that matters when this is what you're trying to get done. You want to sell your house fast without a realtor, without showing, without the hassle? Call 338-SOLD. That's 338-SOLD. BestOfferKC.com, helping you leave the hassle behind.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Kevin Kietzman.
We are, of course, keeping our eyes open and our ears open for any stadium news. There are deadlines looming, real deadlines, and we believe the deadline here of June 30th, even if it's extended by a week or so, is a really important deadline for the Royals, much more so than the Chiefs, whose plan B would be stay at Arrowhead Stadium, or maybe it's plan A. They could always stay at Arrowhead Stadium in a much cheaper venture, $1.1 billion. And if they could find their way to 50% from the state of the Missouri, they're still not spending as much as they would be spending on a new stadium personally of the Hunt family money. But for the Royals, they've said they're locked and loaded. They're building a new stadium somewhere, and the Kansas offer is the best offer any baseball team has ever been offered. And they're trying to decide. Look, I think these teams have decided. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know what they've decided. I have no clue. I really don't. I don't know. I think they've decided. I can't believe you would get to this late of a date and not know what you're doing. Now, maybe somebody swoops in and you haven't said yet because you're thinking something really dramatic could happen at the end that would change your mind. I'm not saying that they can't change their mind, but I think they absolutely know it. I think they both know exactly what they're doing unless something dramatically changes their mind. And again, I don't know what that is. I know the Chiefs sold off the options and got rid of those options on 5 pieces of real estate in Kansas. I don't believe that involves any land by the Legends. I think that what they sold off was parcels of land where there would be a corporate office, practice facilities, things like that. They could still have holdings and contracts at the Legends should they want to build a stadium there. But I do think we're going to find out an awful lot in the next couple of weeks. I don't think this thing is going to keep dragging, and these teams have had plenty of time to make up their minds. For crying out loud, you're asking for public support. Make your decision. Make your decision. All right, let's go to the phones. Here's Steven in KCK this morning on Uncanceled. Hi, Steven. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kevin, I like the comments about the B-2 pilots. You know, we should have a parade or something on Chiefs opening day. You know, we got a parade for everything else under the sun. We should definitely, you know, take them around the parking lot or introduce them before the game. I know they don't want a lot of attention, but we could kind of do it in a way that wouldn't, you know, just totally be too crazy. But we also had the first female B-2 pilot apparently on this mission.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, I'm sure I want to know how they got back and forth from 39 hours in flight. Maybe they took a break somewhere, but well, I know how I feel when I go to Houston or I drive down to Houston or Chicago.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, go back and listen to Colonel Cluck from yesterday's show. He explained the whole thing. There's no break.
Okay.
They can take cat naps. They take go pills. They have a little potty on there they can use. They take a little microwave and some food. They've got what they need. And there's 2 pilots, so you can nap for a little while. Cluck said, if I remember exactly what he said, you can take little 20 to 30 minute lay your head back rests and make it for several days just doing that they're trained to do that while the other pilot flies the plane. You can just lay your head back and relax for 30 minutes.
I came in at the end of that. And there's something to be said. You were talking about the riots and the news cycle. There's something to be said for Trump staying on offense and getting on the ball here. I think they're really got a winning strategy here with, especially when he's sort of like the football coach that, you know, an all ball coach. And I love seeing in real time how things are going. It's not like we have to rely on these deep state guys who are constantly throwing his curveballs. He's going to tell you exactly what's going on.
He has changed. He and Elon Musk have changed. Excellent call as always, Stephen. Elon Musk changed the social media landscape by creating a fair place, a place that's equal. Okay, not slanted one way or the other. It's equal. Trump has changed the presidency forever. There's no more hiding from the American public. You're going to have to be open and honest and say this is what's going on. We're adults. We can handle it. Trump has thought for 10 years, I'm going to tell these people the truth. And then when they learn that I'm telling them the truth over and over and over and over and over, you gain goodwill. You don't gain any goodwill by hiding stuff from the American public. He's taken the media out of it. They've gone straight to social media, which is straight to the consumer. That's you and I. And he does things in real time live. He's incredible. All right, coming up next, Kelly Campbell Goodnow will join us. She's the executive director of valorpartners.org and a Gold Star Spout. That's coming up on Uncanceled.
You're listening to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Welcome back to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are so pleased to have in studio Kelly Campbell Goodnow. She's the executive director of valorpartners.org, and she's a Gold Star spouse. And she's got an incredible story, but is on an incredible mission to make a difference in the lives of people who are military families, military related, and it's an incredible operation. ValorPartners.org is having its 14th annual Charity Golf Classic coming up Monday. It's sold out. We're not trying to sell you in the golf tournament. It's at Canyon Farms, which is a place that I'm very familiar with, and I know that they're doing a great job for the Heroes Classic coming up on Monday, June 30th. This fall, in September, they'll do another fundraiser for Valor Partners. It's pickleball at Chicken and Pickle in September in Overland Park. You can find out all the information about what we're going to be speaking about at valorpartners.org, and we welcome Kelly to the show. Hi, Kelly. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good.
Okay, let's start with what valorpartners.org is exactly and what the mission statement is.
Yeah, so we are an organization dedicated to supporting the spouses and children of 100% disabled and deceased veterans in higher education specifically.
So you send them to colleges, and you've got a list on your website of all the different universities you're working with. It looks, at this point, pretty Midwestern and growing. Can you tell me about how that works with the schools? And if somebody listening knows a family that might try to qualify for something like this, how they would try to do that?
Yes, definitely growing. So we started here in Kansas City with 5 local partners. We partnered with Johnson County Park, UMKC, Metropolitan Community College, and KU. I believe that was our first 5. And the program just took off from there. It's been about 5 years of growth. And now we're from California to Hawaii to Virginia, North Dakota. We have 41 partners creating access at 61 colleges across 15 states. So we've really grown nationwide. And we partner with those schools to put that support in place with boots on the ground, people who can talk to the students and know the need and meet that need where they're at. And so those partners actually double. They match every program dollar we give them for scholarships. So everything is matched, doubled, and then we have, because of those schools having skin in the game, now that student gets more support wrapped around that scholarship. So it's much more than a check and a pat on the back.
That's what I was going to ask. So if you raised $5,000 for a student to go to KU, MU, K-State, or wherever it is that they go, the school's going to match that as well.
That's right. So
they have
student's then
skin
going
in
to
the
get $10,000.
That's amazing.
That's right. Yeah.
And is that a hard thing for them to do? I mean, do you have to twist their arm a little bit? Or
not so much. Not
Okay.
anymore. In the early days, it was kind of who's going to say yes, and anybody that said yes was joining the program. And as it grew, this is before I came on, but they started to see this is a big need. And the schools that recognize this need, that's who we want to work with, number one, is schools that recognize this is a need that they want to meet. These are students they want to help get through school, complete their degree. And so now we actually have a waiting list. It's not a problem anymore getting schools to say yes. It's a problem finding the funding to offer those schools who are ready to match it. And we have a waiting list of schools.
All right. So I'm going to ask our listeners to go to the website, valorpartners.org, and make a donation. If you donate $20, you're basically donating $40 for a child of a fallen military member to go to college. So what you give will be doubled by that school. You can click on a button there at valorpartners.org. It just says give right in the upper right-hand side. It's very easy and it's very simple. There's multiple ways to do it. What would really be awesome, and we've seen Tunnels to Towers and others do this, is like the $10 a month recurring deal.
Right.
I mean, that's absolutely the best way to do it.
Definitely.
Is there a number that you...
We have put out at $25 a month minimum. You've joined our honor roll. We're going to send you a lapel pin of the logo for Valor Partners and put you in that group. And then you'll receive some special communications and updates on our students through the years.
That is so cool. ValorPartners.org. If you give $20 or $100 today, awesome. But if you want to recur every month, they would love to have a recurring payment to help send these kids to college. And this is, as executive director, you have a unique position and a unique perspective on this. You're a Gold Star spouse and lost your husband almost 10 years ago now.
That's right.
And I know you had a whole bunch of small kids at home. This had to just be a devastating life event.
That's right. Yeah.
How did you come through that? You were not originally from Kansas City. You're from Texas, right? And you moved around. You met him in college? At A&M?
Yeah, Texas A&M.
Gig 'em.
Yeah.
Gig 'em Aggies, right?
That's right.
So you meet the love of your life in college, and he joins the Marines. You get married, and he joins the Marines. And then the unthinkable happens.
That's right.
15 years later or so?
15 years, yeah.
15 years later. How did you deal with that, having all these small kids? Where did you turn? Who was there for you?
Yeah. My friends and family, my community, the Marine Corps, we just were carried through that time so incredibly, beautifully, miraculously that, just step by step. And I can look back now and see how I was even more in the fog than I knew at the time. And I was really just carried through that time by so many people. And, for those that have been through that, they know people look at you and go, I couldn't do what you do. You're so strong. And we're just going, no, no, I am not. I'm doing what I have to do, but also I'm still standing because I've had help. And that's what led me to today. And now, seeing that there are people that need that same help, that aren't receiving it, that, maybe they don't have a family to step in for them. That's what we're doing for those spouses and children.
Was some of it for you instinct? Now, I'm asking as a parent. I have 3 grown kids. Hoping to have a grandchild here in a few months, which would be very exciting. But is it instinct at that point? Are you thinking about yourself or your children more when these events happen to these military families or any family that has a tragedy, whether it's a car wreck or cancer, somebody dies too young or whatever? What kicks in? How did you do it personally?
Yeah.
What was your focus?
Personally, I can tell you day one, my faith kicked in. And I can't explain it. It's that unexplainable piece that surpasses understanding. From day one, I knew we were going to be okay. I didn't know how. I was definitely scared. It was awful. All the feelings are happening. But in the midst of that, I had this indescribable peace. Not to say that made it easier
Right.
or took the pain away, but that stayed with me. And so I clung to my faith. My family definitely did as well. And I had that kind of support around me, and that positivity. And I think that's part of it too, is to not wallow in the self-pity or in anger over the situation or in the questions that can't be answered, but to simply say, God, I accept this. What do I do now?
Wow.
What do I do next? And it sounds oversimplified when I say that. I really can't explain that kind of piece. Yeah.
That's amazing. We're talking with Kelly Campbell Goodnow. She's the executive director of valorpartners.org and a Gold Star spouse. They would love if you got involved and went to their website, valorpartners.org, and made a recurring donation, $5 a month, 10 a month. Join the, what's the name of this
The
organization?
honor roll.
The honor roll at $25 a month would be amazing. Just click on the button that says give and do that. Let's help send some of these kids who have lost family members in the military. Let's get them to college. It's just a vitally important thing that we do, that we take care of families that are going through this, and a wonderful organization. So these tragic events led you to moving to Kansas City. Had you ever been here before?
Right. I had been a few times. So
Okay.
I grew up in Texas, went to Texas A&M. All my siblings did as well. And as we grew up and left home and moved all around the country, my parents ended up here
Okay.
with their jobs. So they had come to Kansas City maybe 10 years before. And we had visited. It was where, Granddad and Yaya lived to my
Okay.
kids. But it wasn't home. I didn't know anyone else here. I just knew it was my safe place. And so pretty quickly, within a month after the crash, we left our home in Hawaii. My kids were 11, 9, 6, and 2 at the time. And, we packed up, we came here, we moved into my parents' basement and waited out this storm. When a crash like that happens, there's a very long search and salvage process. And it happened in January. We moved in February. We had a funeral finally at the end of April. And then the investigation was complete later that year. So it's just a very long process. And I was blessed to be able to come here and just ride that out with my parents and just kind of wait through it and rest. And then one thing after another, just like a snowball, led to staying here in Kansas City. And it's home now. And I'm thankful and blessed, I can say that. But that came about because of all the help and support we received just in taking next steps.
This is not that long ago. that
It's
you went through
not.
this. You were in
Yeah,
your parents'
yeah.
basement with all these kids. You're probably still changing diapers.
Yes, I had one that was still had a pacifier and diaper, all the things that at that point we should have been training him out of. That did not happen that year.
Right.
Right. But yeah, they were little, and you asked earlier what they were my main priority. What do we do? How do I support us now? Where are we going? Where do we live when the Marine Corps isn't telling us where to live? Couldn't even answer that question. But just step by step, the answers fell into place, and we didn't have to figure it all out at once. And
So
here we are.
you get the Folds of Honor, and then you get the Valor Partners, the executive director, and viewing what your kids went through and what this has been like. They're older now. You've got one that's at least one that's an adult.
One in
by my math.
college, one on our way to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Valor Partners must be specific to you, incredibly important when you viewed your own children growing up with a loss and what it can do for families like yours.
Right. And really, beyond that, Valor Partners came out of seeing the disparity between what my children have received in terms of support and help and scholarships for college versus what the spouses and children of 100% disabled or deceased veterans receive. And there's a misconception out there that, military kid, your college is paid for. You're good. You're set for life. Military spouse, you're good. But that's not true. And when you think about our 100% disabled or veterans who die after service, they receive a different VA benefit. It's called Chapter 35, Dependents Education Assistance. My children, in contrast to that, they received Chapter 33, the John David Fry Scholarship, which is a huge scholarship. It's a benefit that means I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry that they're going to be able to get through college. And it also, beyond that, it means they have a lot of freedom of choice in where they go. They have the ability to really, if we steward that well, they get to do what they want to do. And that's a huge blessing and a huge weight off my shoulders. Those families of veterans who are disabled, now you've got caregiver homes or one income homes or one parent homes. And all the effects of that we talk about, the problems facing the military, poverty and food and housing insecurity and mental health. We can't leave education out of that. There are a lot of Band-Aids we put on those problems, and there are a lot of really good missions out there doing really good, needed things. But if we leave higher education out, we're not giving those families a way out. We're not getting them out of that cycle of poverty. And so we specifically support those Chapter 35 students. So they are receiving a small VA stipend. It's outdated. It's a Vietnam era benefit. It wasn't wrapped into the post 9/11 GI Bill. And that's really widely misunderstood. Even within the military, people don't realize. But schools know. They see these students and they see this number rising. Chapter 35 students, their enrollment is going up over 20, 35, 50% a year at some schools. We're just seeing it multiply. Because we've had 2 decades of war, and now you have spouses and children either entering college age or going back to school. And so in a season where college enrollment is declining or stagnant, this number is going up. And so schools want to help these students. They want to retain them. And
It's amazing. Kelly Campbell Goodnow is with valorpartners.org. That's valorpartners.org. A final question for you. I know how my family thinks of military. I just did a monologue to start this show about these B-2 pilots and that amazing mission that we saw over the weekend. And I was raised to be patriotic. I was not in a military family. We had distant relatives or uncles or cousins that were in the service. How is it different when your family has experienced what you've experienced with the loss of your husband, and for the kids growing up? Is there any negative feeling toward the whole thing? How do you deal with children when they start asking questions about that? Would you allow your kids to go into the military? How is that different than what we are raised with?
Right. I think my kids have grown up with so much pride in what their dad did. And, obviously the older ones, my older son and daughters, they remember. And they are proud, and they have considered, military. My son, he's in college now, but he still thinks maybe he'll look at the reserves one day and maybe he'll fly. And I would be beyond proud if he did. I don't really push them one way or the other. I want them to find their way, but so it is different for them because they've just experienced it. And especially with my son, he was just turning 12, 13 and coming to this new community and new way of life, leaving the military behind. I really saw the difference in him and his perspective in life, and how he didn't really understand what it was like to live in one place your whole life, and to not just make friends instantly with everyone, and to not be accepting of being very different from people because that's part of your community. And so they've just grown up with a very different perspective, and I see now how they are so mature and compassionate because of that. And it's hard for me to imagine not knowing what that's like, not having that pride in the military. But I think we know that it's something 9 out of 10 Americans agree they have pride and support for the military family. It's something we have common ground on, and that's good.
Kelly, you're incredible. I want you to write me down to be a recurring member. No problem there. I want you to pencil me in for a pickleball team. I'll have
That's
to see what the
right.
dates are or whatever, but we'll do
September 21st.
And let's talk again, and for sure, at least in a couple of months, and see how the pickleball thing's going. If you need
Yeah.
help getting people to play in that, I know our audience would love to come play pickleball with you. So
We'd love that.
let me know, and all the best on Monday with your golf tournament. And thank you. God bless you for the great work that you're doing with
Thank
Valor
you
Partners.
so much. And to our military out there, thank you. Everything they're going through right now. Thank you.
Amen. Kelly Campbell Goodnow, the executive director of valorpartners.org, joining us right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
Whether you're a Jayhawk, Wildcat, Tiger, or KC Roo, we won't cancel you. Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Really powerful thoughts and words from Kelly Campbell Goodnow. That was, we've done a lot of celebrating the last 3 or 4 days about the prowess of our military. And when Trump made those comments today about the danger of those pilots and what they were doing in that mission, too many of us took it for granted that this was easy because we're a better military than Iran and all those other things. Bad things happen while they're just practicing. We know this. It happens all the time. This is really dangerous work. And Kelly's story is incredible. I can't imagine having that happen with all those little kids at home. And she's doing great work. It's valorpartners.org. You'd make me very happy, and you'd be doing yourself a favor to put your money where your mouth is and support them. Send some of these kids to college that have lost a parent. valorpartners.org. That's Valor, V-A-L-O-R, valorpartners.org. Mark Van Sickle is up on the broadcast. We're going to check in with Mark. How are you today, good friend?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. I never know which hats you're going to wear on which days. Is that new from your trip to Seattle?
This is not a new hat. I just wanted to rep after Cal Riley hit his 32nd home run last night.
There you go. How many teams do you have?
Oh, man.
Total.
That I cheer for?
Yeah. Or wear a rep, wear the gear.
Oh, man. I'd say probably 10.
That's it?
10, yeah.
Well, you've got all of them here, right?
Yeah, the KC Current, Sporting, Royals, Chiefs. I don't have any
KU?
hockey gear. KU, yeah.
Okay.
I need to get some Missouri Mavericks gear.
Well, if they're listening, send the swag. We should do with you what John Gruden does.
Yeah, I'll wear the hat.
Send your team swag to Mark Van Parlay. We'll open the boxes. We'll put it on social media. We'll have fun with it on the air.
That would be great. I would love that.
Send the swag. If you're interested, get a hold of us. Send the swag to Mark Van Sickle. There you go. How about this little salary cap number? Patrick Mahomes is the 14th highest paid quarterback in the NFL this year on the salary cap. Number one is Dak Prescott at $51 million. Mahomes comes in at $28 million, which is 14th among quarterbacks. It's like 18th overall. But this is all you need to know about the Chiefs, Mark. You're going to love this. Guess who he's tied with at $28 million?
I was going to say Daniel Jones or something like that, but I'm not sure.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Okay.
Now, what does that say about what the Chiefs did when they traded Tyreek Hill and didn't pay all that money?
Oh, yeah, they made a great move there.
If they made the same contract the Dolphins gave him today, Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes would be on the same team with the same salary cap number. That's insane.
And I don't think they would have been able to keep Chris Jones, probably.
No, none of it. It's ridiculous. The number of quarterbacks that are just flat out awful, like Kyler Murray and Tua, Geno Smith's on there. The quarterbacks that are ahead of Mahomes on that salary cap number are crazy. So he's doing what Tom Brady did all through those years. He's doing team-friendly contracts because he makes so much money outside of that. And that really is the way the great ones do it. He's absolutely not getting paid as much as he should get paid.
When he signed that $500 million deal, it was a steal. Like, people said that was a crazy deal, but it was a steal.
He's got a new one coming probably next year, and it's going to change some things a little bit. But I think of all the things to respect about Patrick Mahomes, besides his ability, whatever, is that greatness right there for his teammates. How about Rebecca Lobo? She's a broadcaster for the WNBA games on ESPN. And a foul occurred, and she didn't agree with the foul. But the lady she was working with, Pam Ward, the play-by-play lady, said, I don't agree with you either. And so Rebecca Lobo said, well, that's what makes America great. We can disagree on this call. And it was dead silence until she came back on and said, I should have phrased that better. I apologize.
Oh, no.
Can you believe it?
WNBA.
That is what makes America great. Thank you, Mark. The Vince Show is coming up next on KCMO.